Hi guys. Today let's look at Toni Morrison's A Mercy. This book is beautifully haunting. Like most of Morrison's works, it leaves you speechless. It takes all the pain and the trauma and it tattoos it on your skin. You're never ever free of it. You can't just let go because Morrison has, well, she had the gift of making sure that the trauma stays with you, that she's trying to express, that the characters in her book are trying to express. So in true Morrison fashion, this book will haunt you. Well, this is this is the only Morrison book that is set as far as the 17th century. So this book tells the story of 17th century America in the middle of the booming slave trade. I'm choosing to look at the book specifically from the perspective of slavery, because the major character in the book is named Florence. Florence, when we first meet her, is a young girl of about 16. And as she tells the story, because she begins the story, as she tells the story, we realize that she's been living in this particular farm for 8 years. She came to live with Jacob Vark, who is a good man, in that period where people bought slaves and tried to break them. Vark wasn't really interested in the slave thing. In fact, all the slaves in the Vark household have special stories, about how they actually came to live there. Now, Florence, who I'm going to look at as a victim of not knowing the truth. That's how I'm going to look at her. She's a victim of not knowing the truth. When you don't know the truth, sometimes you go ahead and act in a certain way because you don't actually know the truth. Now, Florence is this 8-year-old girl who watches her mother kneel down on the floor, on the ground, begging Jacob Vark to please take her daughter instead of her son into slavery. And she doesn't know why. And until the very end, we know why, but we were just left wondering if. So until the end, we're just left wondering if Florence is ever going to understand why her mother did what she did. And this is the thing that haunts all of us as we read the book. In the very beginning, the reason why I'm choosing to look at the book from the perspective of slavery, because the truth is, this is a book where Morrison makes a mix of her characters. The book is not specifically about black people because she has different characters, major characters from different places. Jacob Vark, who is a landowner, is a white man, of course. His wife Rebecca is also a white woman. She's like this English woman who travels on the ship to come all the way to America to marry a man she had never met because her father didn't want her around or something like that. So she comes all the way to meet this man who had just inherited this land from his uncle, and he's looking for a wife and a way to start a family on this farm. She comes there to help him work on the farm and make it a home. So the story is very much about them as much as it is about Florence. There's also Lena, who is a Native American girl, woman, who also embodies most of what the story is about. There is also sorrow. Sorrow, I have to tell you, I wasn't able to glean where exactly sorrow is from the book. The description about sorrow just leaves you wondering, who exactly is sorrow? Is she okay? Is she all there? Because sorrow is this girl who was rescued from a shipwreck. Everybody on the ship dies except sorrow, and she has a sort of psychotic break while she's just lying down there trying to hold on to life. It's as if she begins to see herself outside of her body. So she has this twin that only her can see. So she speaks to herself, and so Sorrow. The description about her is the color of her teeth is black. The color of her hair is red, I think. So she must have looked really exotic. Like nobody knew exactly where she was from. Now the story is as much about Sorrow as it is about everybody else. There's Florence. There's Florence's mother, and these people are the major characters in the story, and most of the story is told from their perspective. I like what Morrison does in the story. She makes sure that each chapter of the book is told by a different character who is important, who is supposed to know what is happening. So when the book begins, we hear from Florence. Don't be afraid. My telling can't hurt you in spite of what I've done, and I promise to lie quietly in the dark, weeping perhaps or occasionally seeing the blood once more, but I will never again unfold my limbs to rise up and bare teeth. At first, we don't know what she's talking about. I would never know until towards the end of the book. Florence, from her telling, is telling us how she first came to the Vark household. She's 8 years old. Her mother is on another plantation somewhere far away. She's a slave, so her mother has a son. And for as long as we know Florence, she's haunted by this knowledge, this belief that she has, this certainty that her mother gave her up because her mother, decided to keep the boy and let go of her. So she's affected by this separation much more than she knows. She sees her mother in her dreams every night. The mother is about to tell her something, but she never ever gets to hear what it is that the woman has to say, and she always has her son in her bosom. And this is traumatic. And we see Florence acting out because of this trauma. She has this deep need to be liked, to be. Even Rebecca, Vark's wife, when she tells her own side of the story, describes Florence as someone who really, really lives for affirmation. She wants to be told that she's good, that she knows what she's doing, she's okay. She loves that. She's also besotted with this blacksmith who Vark employed at one point to come build a house, a big iron gate for the new huge house that he's building. All of these things are related to how I think the experience with her mother, how she separated from her mother, has affected Florence. So when Florence begins the story, she tells us how she's 8 years old when she comes to live with the Varks. She meets Lena, who is now like her mother. Lena is this Native American woman who is so good with everybody. She's good with Florence. She treats her like a daughter. She's good with Rebecca, who is Vark's wife. She helps her with everything. She was actually the only person who is already living with Vark even before his wife arrives. And she helps Rebecca with everything, including with all the children that she gives birth to that just kept dying. Rebecca has had so many sons, and she's lost all of them before they are even up to a year old. But although Lena is good with Rebecca or with Florence, and she's a sweet person, she just never ever comes to the point where she trusts Sorrow. Sorrow, she looks at as someone who has an evil spirit. She's like this demonic being. And according to Lena, until the very end, it is because of Sorrow's presence in that household that Vark's wife is unable to have any of her children live. The most painful is Patrician, who actually got to be 5 years old, but an accident, a freak accident at the farm, made her to break her head, and that was how she died. And it was really very hard for Rebecca to not have any child live, and stay alive with her. So that's her own pain. Now Morrison starts the story with Florence telling us her pain. My mother give me away, give me to Vark. Then, after that, we see Vark on his own journey. Vark is going to a journey to visit this this Catholic singer who we see is, I think, from Portugal or somewhere. He has a lot of slaves, a lot of slaves. He has a farm full of slaves, but he's living way above his means. He has all kinds of nice things, including the ones that they don't need. He feasts like a king. When Vark arrives, they throw out this massive feast in the afternoon. Vark is like, oh my God, these heathens, why do they eat so much? And he can't eat any of the things that they offered him. His wife is decked out in gold and all kinds of, jewelry, clothes that are just too much. His sons are stuffed like pigs, and it's so easy to see why he can't pay his debt, and he's owing everybody. He's owing everybody. He's indebted to all his friends around him, which is why he has stretched down towards Virginia, to where Vark is, to owe Vark. And now Vark has come to collect, and he wants to cut a deal with Vark. Why don't you take slaves instead? Because slaves are is a thriving business. Take slaves. And Vark is repulsed at the thought of selling and buying human beings. He just doesn't understand why anybody would want him to do that, if even though it's what's going on in these parts. But he does not understand why people want to take human beings as slaves. But as he's leaving, so Florence's mother is standing there clutching her little baby, while Florence is just standing all over there with her oversized shoes, cast-offs from mistress of that household, which is the wife of the man Dotega, that Vark has come to his house to collect debt. And looking she's looking elsewhere, but Vark notices her with her oversized shoes, and he finds it funny, so he laughs, and there's kindness obviously on his face. So Florence's mother looks at that opportunity. As soon as Vark is escorted by Dotega to see his slaves, he's showing him the slaves, like real articles. Let me read somewhere that I marked up here. The two men walked the row, inspecting. Dotega identifying talents, weaknesses, and possibilities, but silent about the scars, the wounds like misplaced veins tracing their skin. One even had the facial brand required by local law when a slave assaulted a white man a second time. So these men and women are nothing but chattel. They are to be sold and branded. And Vark doesn't feel so good about this. So he turns and looks at the woman who's carrying a child and is like, okay, I'll take her. But Dotega doesn't want him to take Florence's mother for some dubious reasons, which we will come to understand, which of course will be clear to anybody who sees the way that he looks at her. Of course, it's not news that most of the children born on those plantations were fathered by the white owners of the plantations. They like to rape black women, slaves, sleep with them in the night and treat them like trash in the morning, and watch their own children that they fathered being bought as slaves, because they can't claim those children. They're not white. So there's always a situation where the mistress of the house is having the white babies, and all the slaves are having the mulatto babies for the same man. So anyway, so obviously we see that Dotega has a dubious reason why he doesn't want this woman to be taken. And Vark is adamant, I want her. But that moment, Florence's mother seizes the moment, kneels down before Vark and says, please, don't take me or my son. Please take my daughter instead. Please. And then Vark agrees, out of mercy. This mercy becomes the thing that haunts us all through the book. Because Vark is obviously merciful to the plight of this woman. He agrees to take her daughter. Now, not everybody's going to be looking at it from that standpoint. Like, how do you tell someone to take your daughter, your 80-year-old daughter, instead of you or your baby son? It's your daughter, for God's sake. But we don't know at that moment why Florence's mother had to do that. But we definitely have an idea. She's looked at this man. He looks like a good man. He's kind. He's looking at her daughter like a child. And we'll get to see this in the end of the book, that this is the first time she's seen a man who's looking at her child like a kid. You know? And who else are you going to trust with your child in this defenseless place, in this place where there is no peace for you or any other woman? Apart from this man who looks kind, who does not have any interest in selling slaves. So she's going to be in the life of slavery, that's all right, but it's going to be with a better man, than the Ortega. So she begs for that mercy and she receives it. So that's how we see Vark. From that moment, when Vark takes that girl and makes the journey with a priest who was teaching her, obviously, with her mother. The priest is not supposed to teach them how to read or write, but he does it anyway. So this is why, of course, the story is told by Florence. She writes the story, and I like how Morrison makes her own her voice. She writes the way that you would expect that someone with little education and someone who is young and doesn't really understand a lot of things will write, even though you will also understand while you read it that, okay, this is a book written by someone who knows what she's doing. But we see and we hear Florence's voice very clearly, as we do the voices of all the other characters who are important to the plot of this book. After Vark leaves, the next time we're seeing the Vark household, we're listening to the story. It's no longer chronological, it never was. Vark is sick and dying, and Vark dies. It's a few years after that, of course, because the Florence that we now meet is a teenager. She's 16 or 17, and Vark falls ill and dies. Of course, they have the smallpox in the farm, and people are just catching. So one after the other, people just catch it and die. So nobody wants to stay around the farm anymore. The construction on the massive house that Jacob Vark is building after he had seen the Ortega's mansion. He's building this place that obviously is not going to do anything anymore because he dies. And now this is where we see another twist to the story. Florence, I've talked about it when I started, is besotted with the blacksmith who has come to build this house. This blacksmith once healed sorrow when she had these boils that they were so horrible. I think it was also the smallpox, and I think it was Sorrow who brought the smallpox into the farm, and which is another reason why Lena hates her. So because he's healed her once, at this point in the story, we now realize who Florence has been talking to all this while. She's talking to the blacksmith, who she obviously loves and adores in this reckless way. And she's talking to him because she's coming to meet him because Mistress Rebecca is sick with the pox. She doesn't want to die. She's almost at the edge of her life, and she has sent Florence to go find the blacksmith to come and heal her. So Florence sets out on this very long, agonizing journey to find the blacksmith, and she is only propelled by one thing, her love for him, and how pleasant and wonderful it will be to see him again. So she keeps moving, irrespective of all the roadblocks, on her way that she encounters, a lot of them. Now, so finally, she is able to bring the blacksmith. He comes, he leaves her in his house. He goes to visit her mistress, heals the mistress, and goes back to meet her. Now, at the point of coming to meet her, because as he was leaving, he leaves a little boy there. He leaves a little boy behind. It's like, this little boy, he doesn't have parents. I'm the one who's raising him. Please look after him. I'm going to go and come back. By the time he comes back, the little boy, who does not actually like Florence at all, is acting up, and Florence tries to discipline him. And that's the exact moment when the blacksmith enters. She was cruel to the boy. She broke his arm, because she was trying to force him to behave or something like that. And the blacksmith sees that, and he's so annoyed that he even beats her. And once again, Florence suffers rejection. Someone else is better. Someone else is chosen over her. The little boy Malek is more important, obviously, to the blacksmith than she'd ever be. And this hurts deeply. And he beats her and beats her until she gets angry. And in this moment, Florence becomes a changed woman. With this second rejection, she just loses it. And this is how we now come to understand what she was saying in the beginning when she said, don't be afraid. My telling can't hurt you in spite of what I've done. And I promise to lie quietly in the dark, weeping perhaps, or occasionally seeing the blood once more. But I will never again unfold my limbs to rise up and bare teeth. She attacks the blacksmith, and I think she kills him. It's not so clear, but she's covered in blood when she returns to the Vark household. And she begins to write these things and keep them in the empty house where Vark is buried, and where some people, Willie and Sully, some other characters in the book, believe that they see the ghost of Vark roaming, and it might be the ghost of the blacksmith too, trying to read the words that Florence is written and scattered all over the floor of that place. So we don't know what exactly transpires, but she comes back a changed woman. She's not afraid of anything. She makes that whole journey, return journey, she's not afraid. When she's going in the beginning, she's so scared for her life, but in the return, there's nothing like fear anymore. She's conquered her fear. She's a different woman. She doesn't care what happens to her anymore. And as she comes back to the household, that's when we finally realize why her mother sells her in the beginning. She's been having these dreams about seeing her mother trying to tell her something, but in the end, the mother is the one who's telling that part of the story. She tells the story of this hardship of being on this ship with thousands of other slaves, some of whom were drowned, some of whom drowned themselves before they get to this place, Barbados, to work on these sugarcane plantations. And it's not just that they are in this place. The first time they come to the farm where they're supposed to work, according to the white man who owns them, some black people are brought to break them in. And this breaking in means to rape them. And it is from this rape that she gets pregnant with Florence. In the end, she's telling the story to Florence where she says, I don't know who is your father. It was too dark to see any of them. They came at night and took we three, including Bess, to a curing shed. Shadows of men sat on barrels, then stood. They said they were told to break we in. There is no protection. To be female in this place is to be an open wound that cannot heal. Even if scars form, the festering is ever below. This is so deep and painful. She doesn't know who Florence's father is because of this rape, and this is the reason why she realized that that place is not safe for her daughter. No place is going to be safe for her daughter. So, because no place is going to be safe for her daughter, that's why she had to do what she did. To be separated from her daughter in order to guarantee that she'll have at least a better life than the one she has. The 2 times she has children, it was through rape, and she can't say who exactly is the father. And it's so traumatizing to listen to her tell the end part of the story. So she says, I was burning sweat in Cain only a short time when they took me away to sit on a platform in the sun. It was there I learned how I was not a person from my country, nor from my family's. I was Negrita. Everything, language, dress, gods, dance, habits, decoration, song, all of it cooked together in the color of my skin. So it was as a black that I was purchased by Senhor, taken out of the cane and shipped north to his tobacco plants. Senhor d'Ortega is the man who bought her. And the trauma continues, the abuse continues, before she finally tells her daughter what she's been trying to tell her all this while in her dreams. I said, take you, my daughter, because I saw the tall man see you as a human child, not pieces of eight. I knelt before him, hoping for a miracle. He said yes. It was not a miracle bestowed by God. It was a mercy offered by a human. I stayed on my knees in the dust where my heart will remain each night and every day until you understand what I know and long to tell you. To be given dominion over another is a hard thing. To wrest dominion over another is a wrong thing. To give dominion of yourself to another is a wicked thing. Oh, Florence, my love, here at Tuame. This end of this book is a culmination of all the hurts and pains that the Florence has been going through, both as a child, as a grown woman who's trying to navigate her way through this rough world. Her mother tells her, of course, as we have seen here, that to give dominion of yourself to another is a wicked thing. And to fall hopelessly in love with this blacksmith, to think that the only way that she can find validation as a human being is to give herself to this person, which she's been doing all this while until he shows her that she's nothing, that she's a slave. He calls her a slave, a wilderness, a wild thing. And that was a moment for her. That was a moment she breaks free. So don't forget to go to www.strokesonpaper.com for a written review of this book. And if you need anything else, just let me know. You can always reach me by email. So I just hope that you'll continue to join us. So I'll see you in the next video. Let me know if there's any particular book you're trying to find or you're trying to read. Like I always say, when I read it, you've obviously read it, because I'm going to tell you the story like you actually read it. Thank you so much, and take care of yourself.